real business owner.
Whatever your situation is currently is not your forever situation.
That's really what real business owners is, man. Like, we don't care where you come from, where are you going?
Our goal and our job is to reduce the mistakes that you have to make or the money that you have to lose.
You want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be successful, don't give up.
You learn, adjust, and continue to move forward. Welcome back to the Real Business Owners Podcast. This is episode 115. Got that one right this time. Guys, today me and Kel have a guest. You know, we've kind of known him, I would say, maybe about a year or so, just in passing at the gym as he's getting his swole on. I look over at him and he's staring at my biceps a lot of the times, you know. So
they're mesmerizing.
Mesmerizing, yes. I mean, I hit
bring
arms
in
every day.
all the business.
Yeah. Okay.
I first met him at the $100 dinner club.
Oh,
we chatted it up over there.
Right.
And I was like, oh, he told me that night he was doing this real estate stuff. And
so this individual originally started out in door-to-door sales, right? Has moved his way into, real estate investing. He's an entrepreneur, self-made, right? Knocking doors, saving money, making sacrifices so that he can build the next thing, work his way out of knocking doors and create a life for himself. And he's done just that. He's got to the point where he has real estate courses that he sells, teaching people everything that he knows, the ins and outs of real estate. I would say avid fitness junkie. Yeah. Would that be also a title in your resume?
I would say yes if people are listening and know if people are watching right now.
Yeah, exactly. So don't watch it on YouTube or anything. Just we'll take his word for it that he's an avid fitness junkie. Guys, today we have Brody Fausett on the show. He just barely 2 or 3 days ago got done with 62 miles or 100K.
Yep.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Through a mountain range.
I was just gonna say, 62 miles sounds tough just in general, even if it's flat as hell. Being on an escalator for 62 miles would take forever and would be a pain in the ass. But he did it through fucking mountains, right? Elevation change was ridiculous. It started raining on you, and you look dead at mile 55.
They're talking about right now. I was like, I probably still
you
look
look
dead.
good right now. He just got done with a massage. He did his whole massage thing after the fact. But that was 2 days ago, 3 days ago? Was it on Sunday, Saturday?
Yeah. So both started Saturday, ended on Sunday morning. So
how many hours did it take you?
So it's crazy, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point. But 23 hours and 45 minutes, 50 minutes. The time cap was 24 hours. So
some people can't even keep a promise to themselves for more than 24 hours or a commitment, let alone freaking hiking and running. Was the majority of it more hiking or was it running? A lot of it?
Probably both. Like the best way to describe this race was you're looking, I don't know if you've been up to Beaver Mountains or the Tusher Mountains.
Oh, yeah.
I've been up to the yeah.
And it's crazy, but I mean, one of the probably hidden gems of the world, honestly. It's crazy beautiful up there. But I feel like the whole race course was, we pick this mountain point, clear over here, go run up to the top of that, and then come back down. And they pick another one over here, go run up the top of that, come back down. So
you have no idea like they just say go there and then
you do. I mean, everything's marked. Right? They have tags, but yeah, a lot of uphill and a lot of downhill.
What's the purpose of it? Why'd you do it? Why would you say yes to something stupid like that?
No, it's a great question.
Because 99% of people will never, ever, ever, ever in a million years do that. And in their mind, projecting obviously their bias, there's no reason for them to challenge themselves in that way, right? So what's your mindset around taking on large challenges like that? What are you hoping that brings to you?
Yeah. Well, I think you said part of it, honestly, the fact that 99.9% of the world will never even consider it.
Does that feel empowering to you when you realize you're like, okay, I'm going to take on this thing that not a lot of people will ever do in their life, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to have that on my resume?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think that's an empowering thing in general, right?
Yeah.
You're doing something that most people wouldn't even consider. My wife and I ran. So this was my second ultra marathon, which ultra marathon is anything
above 20
over marathon.
Yeah, anything over 26.2.
Mm-hmm. So my wife and I, we did one together. It's probably been 2 years now, and
how long was that one?
It was 174 miles. So that's a whole nother story of its own, and it's crazy. My wife found out she was pregnant halfway through this race. We're 100 miles in, and absolutely insane story. But I think from that, like, that was definitely the hardest thing I had ever done in my life, and it was one of the moments that I grew the most that I ever have in my life. And so I think that enough time had passed from that one where I forgot about the suck
misery.
of it.
You forgot. You drifted away from the experience and the misery.
Yep.
And then the only thing that was left in your mind was the things that you gained from it.
That's exactly it.
Then you jump back in and do something dumb again.
Yep.
Because the only thing you remember is gaining from it. The misery is short term, but the gain that you get from something like that is forever.
Absolutely.
And that's what people just don't understand is even in business, building a business, the pain of building a business, it can be miserable, but that's only for a fraction of time. But you have the ability to build something that can bring value to you forever. And too many people, I think, let the pain or the misery deter them from their commitments, right? Whether it is in business or whether it is on the trail. I mean, I don't know how you finished it looking dead at mile 55. I mean, you look like you're taco wrapped up, and it didn't look like you were moving anywhere.
Yeah.
What was your mindset like when you were basically broke down to nothing and you were throwing up and there were still 7 miles left to go? It was raining on you. It just it looked pretty bleak. I ain't gonna lie. Bro.
Bleak. Yeah.
Heart, I sent my heart out to you, but I'm sure you didn't feel a thing.
I mean, I made it through somehow, so I'm sure it helped at some point. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I try to pull like these. I mean, you're going through this time for so long. You're on the trails, a lot of like quiet time, to think. So I always try and pull some lesson out of like these different races and experiences. And this one that you brought up, it's interesting. I thought about memories over moments, right? Because we go through these moments that are so much pain and like you don't think you're going to ever get through it, but eventually you do, and it becomes a memory. And so that was just part of the thing that I thought of as I was running this race. I'm like, I'm doing this for the memories, right? It's 24 hours, but I'm probably going to pull from it for the next 24 years of my life. And so along with that, another one I pulled from it was anything that goes up must also come down, and vice versa, right? So I started thinking about these because get these times in this race when you're hiking these peaks and a ton of elevation gain at a high elevation. And so like you just are exhausted, right?
Yeah.
And so what I'd start to figure out was, because we were going up, it would start to get really, really hard, and then eventually it would flatten out, and it was like, okay, this isn't so bad. And then it would go up again, you're like, dude, I don't know if I can do this. And then it flattens out, or you start going down, and you're like, okay, I got this. And so kind of along with that same concept, I think it does relate to business and life and all of those things. But yeah, it was interesting because my wife came to pace me the last about 12, 13 miles of the race. And so it was the second to last checkpoint that she met up with me. And I told her, this is about mile 52. I was like, she's like, how's it been? Like, you look great. You look strong. We had a great pace going. And I was like, honestly, like, it's been pretty easy. And I told her that, and which
you wish you wouldn't have.
I shouldn't have said that, right?
Right? When you say it's easy, the gods of ultra racing are like, huh?
Yeah, they're like,
easy?
say what? No, legit. And then it started to rain, and it got cold, and this point it's dark, and
those were the ultra gods. They're like,
they
easy,
were, man.
Rain, cold.
They were.
Try
They're
that,
like,
man.
You thought you got away with this? You're 90% done? Like, I don't think so. And so, started raining, got extremely cold. Like, I don't know what exactly happened, if it was, mild stages of hypothermia or what. I hired this coach to help me get ready for it. He's just a professional ultra marathon runner, and I was talking to him afterwards, and he's like, yeah, definitely, it sounds like it was brought on by the cold. And so my body is just rejecting everything. I'm throwing up. I can't keep water down, can't keep anything down, and I still
that's what helps you power through those low points.
Yes.
You get a little bit of nutrients in, you get a little bit of water in, and then you can actually, what's cool about it is when you deplete your body of every piece of nutrient in it by exhausting it, when you actually refuel, you could feel it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like on a day-to-day basis when we go eat lunch or what, like you don't feel it. You're just no longer hungry anymore. But when you're out there putting your body through hell and you put a little bit of food in your system, you get that, like you could feel that second wind just kick in. So I can only imagine not being able to hold anything down or any water down and just continuing to feel that state of exhaustion, never being able to kind of bring yourself back out of that. So
that was it. And to put it in perspective, those last 10 miles took about 9 hours to finish. And so it's interesting because
would you crawl?
Pretty much
backwards.
No, pretty much. That's what it felt like. I mean, it's taken a few steps and it's throwing up, and it's almost a blur now because of that situation that I was in. And it's funny. My wife she's a nurse. She doesn't practice as a nurse, but she has her nursing degree. And she's like, I didn't tell you then, but like I was super nervous.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. You know. And
but it was cool. I look at it now as a blessing because I think very few times in our life we ever put in a situation where we have the opportunity to honestly dig deep, and to push past. And I think it went back to I had already committed. I already knew, like I'm not a quitter. No matter what, I don't quit, right? If I break my leg or someone has to haul me off, that's one thing, right? And I think because I've ingrained that in my mind so much, and then I get in this situation where it's requiring me to dig probably the deepest I've ever had to dig, and I can't even like describe the feelings that I was feeling.
Yeah.
And it's dark and it's cold and you're shivering and you're throwing up and you're just trying to take step by step.
Did you feel a little defeat there for a few of those moments when you were trying to rest up and not being able to hold anything down, like just wondering, second guessing 100%. Any of that? Like, am I going to make it through this? Is this even 100%, possible?
Yeah. And like I said, it goes back to like, I'd made that commitment already, so it never came into my mind of like, hey, I'm gonna pull out, or I'm gonna tell them I'm gonna pull out. Like I'd rather the time lapse, and not make the time cut, or someone have to come get me, than for me to like raise the flag.
Yeah.
Right? But so we made it. The hardest part was making it to that last checkpoint. It was about 3-4 miles. So finally made it there. And they had a heater there, and they had probably one of the pictures you saw me was laying down on this cot where I'm just about dead, right, shivering. And so it got to the point where like we had 7 more miles to finish the race, and we knew, okay, 24 hours, that's the time cap. If you're going to finish this thing, that's the time cap to get it done.
You're watching the clock. You're looking at the miles.
Yes.
You're just like, how can I do this?
Yes.
How can I just chip away?
You're adding it up in your mind. You're like, and so it just got to a point where I'm like, okay, if we're going to do this, we have to go now or else you're just not going to finish. And so it just got to that point where it's like I have no choice but to get up and go, even though I felt worse, and I wasn't getting better laying there. And so just got to that point where I'm like, hey, I know the pain of like not finishing this or quitting is going to be way greater than
you'd have to carry that forever.
You do.
And I guarantee you with your personality that would come back and haunt you. It would eat at you a little bit at night knowing that you didn't finish, or you would have said, could I have if I would have pushed myself a little bit more? And one thing that I think that's really cool about some of the ultra stuff is really when somebody's neck deep in shit like that, they're not thinking about the whole thing. They're just thinking about that next checkpoint or that next mile, right? And I think that sometimes even in business, we can get caught up just with the big picture, and we get caught up in the big picture so much so that it freezes our actions. We really don't do anything to move closer to it because we just keep talking about the big picture. But what's that next checkpoint for you in your business?
Yes.
Right? Like what's that next thing that you can do just to get a little bit closer to that big picture vision? It's good to start with a big picture. You knew what you were biting off when you signed up for it, but when you're in the middle of it, you never think of like when you're on mile 5, okay, I've got 57 miles left. That's not how you think about it. You're like, okay, we've got 5 more miles till the next checkpoint. Let's just get there.
Yep.
And it's just about chipping away at what you're trying to accomplish consistently, step by step, day by day, month by month, year by year. And eventually, no matter how much pain or misery or struggle that you're going through, no matter what you feel like that you can't push forward, that you have nothing else left to give, you're completely exhausted, there's still more.
Yep.
Whether you realize it or not, and just get to that next checkpoint, and then again, reevaluate. Okay, we've got 7 more miles left. Yep. Even though I don't feel like I've got anything left to give, you gave a little bit more. And that's really what's required in business, is where most people stop, most people quit. That's where the race begins.
Yep.
Right? It took you 55 miles to get to that point. And that's where the work began.
Yep.
That first 55, that's cool. But when you have to dig deep, that's really when you find out what you're really about. It's not the first 55 miles that you figure out what you're about. It's when you don't feel like you can give anymore, but yet you give more. And then your self-confidence starts building. And again, you become an individual that no matter what you go through, you honor your commitments.
Well, you
no matter the emotion during the struggle, right?
You really train for like certain parts, right? But you don't ever train for the whole thing. You know, like when people train for a marathon, they're like, you know, they train, they get out and they run, they learn like 10 miles, 15 miles,
yeah.
You know, even up to 20 miles. But the last 6 miles are the hardest. No one ever really trains the last 6 miles. And like, even when Trev was out doing his 37, like he trained up to 20 miles, you know, and I don't know how far you train. I know I saw some of your videos of you training.
Yeah, 30 miles.
You probably didn't never do the full
you know?
62 or whatever it was, you know? So I think we train to a certain point, but that you're right, man. That's like that last part that's like the uncharted territory is where most of the growth is.
Where you find out what you're truly about. And maybe the first 5 years in business has got you to the point where now the real work begins.
Yeah.
Now the work
now you
that
gotta
you're
stop going
putting
through
in,
just the motions that you're used to, and you're like, okay, it's time to dig.
It's time to dig. And that's the time where it really is the most impactful, is when you feel like that you don't have anything else left to give, but then you do give a little bit more in order to see that through, right? And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the 37 miles, is just to kind of meet my mind again and take it into the deep waters, right? And I even did a video when I did the 20 miles saying that at mile 17 is where it started hurting. Yep. So that's where the work really ultimately began for me mentally, right? Yes, there was physical work that was done, but this is far more of a mental game than it is a physical game, because his body still kept going. It still did the 7 miles, but his mind was probably like, how are we going to, dude, you can't go anymore. His mind starts working against him. And either he's going to win his mind in that moment, or the mind is going to win and it's going to forfeit, quit, give up, and say, you know, I can't do it. I can't go anymore. And so for me, it was just, you know, how strong is my mentality when I hit the deep waters? And it's just a metaphor for life or business in general, right? Because if you continue to put yourself through misery on purpose, where you're in control of the misery, when life comes in and throws a curveball at you and it's something miserable, you're far more equipped to overcome that curveball or whatever that issue is in life or in business than somebody that's never put themselves in tough situations. It's just another problem that you have to solve, and you're great at dealing with problems because you've put yourself in problematic situations so often that your mind is a lot more prepared for it. And I think that that's what people miss when it comes to fitness and entrepreneurship, is just the discipline aspect of it, the mental gains that an individual can get that ultimately carry into life in general or business in general, right? So let's get into real estate.
Well, hold on. I want to ask one question though. Do you have weird thoughts like this? I was telling Trev about this because when we did his 37 miles, I only did half of it. So I didn't train, right?
Yeah.
The day before, he's like, do you want to come down and do this shit? I'm like, oh fuck yeah.
I said, just come in and get 10 miles or something.
So I was like, I did half of it, right? And I hit these hard points too. And I told Trev when I got back in the truck and had to kind of just watch the second half, I was like, dude, I just kept having these weird thoughts of like, and I had them while we were out there too. I was like, I'd like to know as a dad, as like a man, that like, if we were in some crazy ass world war, living in the hills, doing some crazy ass shit, like, like literally we had to protect our families. Like, I want to know that I could go 20 miles and back if I had to go get my kids some medicine. Like, I started thinking these weird survival shit, right? Yeah. And Trev's like, dude, I thought some shit like that too, man. And so I'm like wondering, as you were like out there and all that alone time, do you ever think weird shit like that? Like, I like knowing that I can go through fucking mountain ranges to get what I need to get for my family.
You have more ability to survive than most because, again, based upon the disciplines that you've created and some of the things that you've put yourself through. I mean, let's be real. 95 to 98% of human beings probably couldn't trek 20 or 30 miles through the mountains today, right now, if they had to. I'm not saying that that's likely, but again, equip yourself. You just never know, right? So what weird mind games did you play? Like, hey, like I gotta do this for my.
I think it's in our DNA as men and like fathers and shit.
Like
you know?
just protecting and providing, right?
I've definitely thought of it before. I think too, in the same aspect goes for like the gym. I think of those things, and like I haven't done like CrossFit in a while. You know, you see me at the gym every morning. It's been a couple years, but a lot of those same thoughts like CrossFit and like, because one thing to be a really big guy, you got big biceps or whatever, but you can't run a mile. You're gonna be in trouble if someone's chasing after you. You know, so I think, and I just bring up CrossFit because I think it's all around. You feel like in shape all around. If you were to get in a fight,
can run,
or you protect
you
your
can
family,
lift,
or you're gonna be good. So definitely have had those thoughts for sure. I think part of it is in some form of like, all right,
male,
I gotta provide,
providing, protecting for your family.
It's within us somewhere, right?
I even had those thoughts when the pandemic hit and everyone was buying up all the toilet paper in the grocery stores. I looked at like 90% of our society, like, you guys are so pathetic, you know? Like, you guys are literally just cleaning out the grocery stores and buying up all the toilet paper and food and shit. And
I'm like, if it was really just over, I mean, you're gonna be able to wipe your ass real good for the next 2 or 3 months, but then you're screwed.
I was never really worried. I know how to hunt and shit, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
all these weirdos and fight in the grocery, I ain't doing that shit. I'll go provide for my family in the hills if I have to, you know. But
my family, I have to go vegan, eat grass, dude. I'm not a good hunter. I don't, you know. So
we'll get you out killing some shit if we have to.
I'll cut a finger off. It'll be a nice little nibble for the kids or something. That's the only hunting I can do. So let's talk about your transition from door to door to real estate entrepreneur. I mean, obviously there were a lot of good lessons that you learned in the door-to-door industry. What were some of your biggest lessons that you took from doing that, and how long did you do it for?
So I mean, I think door-to-door is so interesting, right? Because we look at sales in general, and I know both of you have a sales background, and you'd probably say that like your sales background is why you're as successful as you are today, right?
Absolutely. I would give it a big portion of the credit.
So I feel the same exact way. And so you take that and then you go to cold calling, and then you go door to door, which people aren't expecting you. It's hot outside. You're knocking on doors. You're getting them slammed in your face, and you're like the product you're selling. Like for us, we knock on the door. People weren't expecting us. They don't know if they need it, right? And we get it installed the same day. It was alarm systems, and that's kind of what I've done the last really 7 or 8 years, right? And so learned so much from that as far as how to read people and metaverbals and all the things that come from introducing a product and creating a problem and helping them understand why they need it and why this is a solution to their problem, which is really business today, right? So that alone, not to mention like just overcoming rejection,
the tenacity that it creates, right? Your ability to overcome rejection, which is a lot in business.
Absolutely, because I think that it's a lot of people compare it to like batting average, right? To be successful or to go play in the MLB,
you're going to fail way more than you're going to succeed.
Yep. So it's the same way. Like I could go make, as a college kid, $1,000 a day if I was successful 1 out of 100 times. That's it. So I could take 99 no's and I can make $1,000 a day as a college kid, where it's like, you start doing the math. If you did that every single day, as a college kid, you're making $350,000 by taking 99% of the interactions are rejections to you, and you gotta, not take it personally.
Take it on the chin and move forward.
That's it.
You do.
And you're still successful despite having all of those rejections.
So were you ever shady?
No.
Yeah. I had some shady dudes sell me an alarm system once.
Oh, I'm sure. It's I think
it's a 1-year contract, and you look at it, it's like they added a 0 and a 0. It's 100 year.
My wife
that guy
pulled
ripped some
into,
good commission.
My wife was out in the garage. They must have seen her flip the light on one day because we had the little windows in our garage, and some dude came up and like pounded on the garage door and scared the living shit out of her, and then she came in and got me. I went out. I couldn't find nobody. Next day, dude knocks on my door and he's like, yeah, there's been a lot of weird things going on in the neighborhood. People have had their garages broke into. And I was like, dude, I don't want your alarm system. I'm going to shut my door. And he's like, sir, can I just talk to you and your wife? He like literally does the foot in the door thing, And I was like, no, dude. My wife hears him in there. She's like, who's in the door? Anyway, long story short, it was him. Dude ends up getting my wife to come to the door too. She ends up letting him come in. He signs us this dumbass deal for the alarm system, and that was the thing that got brought up. Is some dude scared me in my garage last night, you know? And then someone told me later that was
problem
those guys
solution.
were coming in the neighborhood freaking like doing shit, like opening windows, like scaring shit out of people to sell alarm systems.
I mean I
probably would have done it back then.
Oh, me too. You know, sometimes you got to create the problem so you can sell the solution.
Yeah, I had shady days, you know.
But no, I mean, at the end of the day, I have a lot of respect for people that have done door-to-door or do door-to-door.
Yeah.
I really do. Do I buy from a whole lot of them? No. But at the end of the day, I understand, you know, how much rejection that individual probably goes through on a day-to-day basis, and it's just more than what the average person can handle. I mean, in your years of door-to-door, how many people have you seen come for 2 weeks, 2 months, and then they're just gone? They just can't hack it, right? The door-to-door industry is a revolving door, but the individuals that seem to do well end up staying in it for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever, and then they slowly, again, callous themselves to all the rejection, all the no's. And once you get to that point, it's a lot easier to go into business and just realize that rejection is just part of the process. Putting yourself out there has to happen. You're going to get, you know, again, punched in the face from time to time, but you dust yourself off and you move on to the next call or the next deal or whatever it is, right? And so I think there's a lot of power to, you know, an individual that's young that wants to be an entrepreneur. I think that they should venture into door-to-door sales and 100%. Try it for a year, 2 years, 3 years. One, the money's good. The money is good if you can hack it. And then also you're getting paid for training.
Yep.
Life training.
I'll tell you, dude, you go down that road, because I've done both. I've done cold calling and I've done door-to-door. And I did door-to-door for multiple reasons, but one of the main reasons is I wanted to know I could do good at face-to-face, because on the phone you can pretend to be anybody, right? Like, hey, I'm this big shot, you know? Like
deep in your voice,
you
I'm
like
6'6",
do these things, right? Yeah.
Instead of 5'7".
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like, you can kind of do this shit. I wanted to know I could do good at face-to-face sales. But one thing I really liked about it, and I learned this through all my sales ventures, is like you got to get good at rejection and everything, right? You got to get good at brushing it off and callousing yourself to it. But what is the huge game changer is, like, in any sale, you've got to get really good at listening. Like opening a door, getting through all the rejection, finally getting that person is so like valuable, but then you got to get really good at just like listening to these people once you do open them up. And that's going to help you as a business owner, an investor,
in a relationship,
employer, a next level salesman, everything, relationships. And so like I always attribute my door-to-door experience as like, man, that's where I really learned like to really hone in on my listening skills and like the body language and like, you know what I mean? Really.
Absolutely.
And that's helped me in a lot of areas. And so I got a lot of gains out of my door-to-door experience.
Yeah. You need to understand the problem that someone's going through before you can accurately provide a solution, right? So, and is business not the exact same way?
Absolutely.
You know? The most frustrating calls that I have with people or someone trying to sell me something or whatever is, it's like they're trying to jam me in this one-size-fits-all box, and it's like, wait, hold on. You're not listening to me. That's not even my problem. You know, if you would have asked the question, what's the number one thing you struggle with right now? I would have told you. I would have given you the answer.
All the ammunition.
Yes.
To load
all
it up
you have to do is just say, we solved that problem for people that struggle with this and this and this, and this is how we do it, you know, and I'm confident that we can help you. And then it's like, wow, okay, you know, here's my money.
Exactly.
Most low-level salesmen are just trying to think of that next thing that they're trying to get out, right? They're trying to think, what am I going to say next?
About themselves and that commission, you know, and not really listening or doing the body language or finding really any ammunition to make the sell, right? So you did that for a period of time. So what was some of the sacrifices that you've made in terms of, you know, door-to-door, then going into, you know, real estate? I mean, my guess is obviously there was probably some times where you had to put, a few acorns away, so to speak, to set yourself up to have more success, right? You couldn't have been a door-to-door guy that was just living high on the hog, spending all their money, having nothing left, needing to go out and out and out and just refuel the lifestyle, right? So tell us a little bit about that, because there had to be a transition period from door-to-door to real estate. Did that happen very quickly? Was it 1 year you were just done with door-to-door, all in on real estate? Or did you dabble a little bit over here as you were still making sales, growing your confidence to then make that shift? Yeah, no, I'm super glad you brought that up, because I'm extremely passionate about this subject and with door-to-door people, because the industry in general has this rap of like,
you go make all this money, you go buy a nice truck, right? And like you live the dream and you whatever. And it's the
1 year guy's trying to act like he's the 5 year guy.
That's it, right?
You know, and then he's over living, but the 5 year guy, he's fine. That doesn't cause any stress to his lifestyle or his income, the things that he has. But the 1 year guy trying to keep up with the 5 year guy, you know, they've got a whole different level of stress.
Even the 5 year guy has
been living like that for 5 years.
The problem is his income might have gone up, but so does his expenses lifestyle. And his lifestyle. Yep. So you create this situation where you feel stuck. And I distinctly remember getting into the industry and being like, I do not want to be the guy that's going to go and grind, make great money, and then look back in 5 years and be like,
have nothing to show for it.
Where did it go?
Yeah.
You know, I have a nice truck, but where did it go? And so I think from an early on standpoint, I always had that mindset. And I think it even goes back to, I remember the very first job I ever had was my grandpa had a ranch, and I would work kind of like construction for him. You know, he paid me $12 an hour.
Odd jobs, whatever. Just kind of a grunt. You were doing, hey, go do this, go do that. And you would just go do it.
I would just
laboring,
go do it. Laboring, yep. And so, I mean, he'd pay me per hour. I remember it was $12 an hour, and I could work as many hours as I wanted. He wouldn't pay me when I ate lunch, you know, so I'd have to take that out of my hours. And so it ingrained in me, like, the harder I work now, it's going to create an easier tomorrow. And I'm going to trade like a hard today for an easier tomorrow because I can work really hard. And I knew if I could get 12 hours in a day, it was $144, you know, a day, which was going to be big for me, right? As a middle school kid.
You're already calculating it out. You're like, I can make $700 a week. Or
but it came back to the principle of like, I'm not going to stop at 5 because I can get ahead right now. And so I think all of that just growing up that way, it brought it back to like, okay, if I'm going to go do door-to-door sales and I'm going to make great money and I'm going to manage a team and run an office, I want to put my money in a place that's going to pay me when I go to bed at night, when I sleep, despite whether I decide to wake up and go to work that day, despite if I'm on vacation. Or if
you get hit by a train, you know, or a bus. You still,
more likely a bus.
Yeah, I said train, and I'm like,
we don't have any trains.
We don't got no trains. So if you get hit by a bus, you know, your family still will have something, rather than having to depend on you to knock doors forever to fuel the lifestyle, right?
Yeah. So I think because of that, I've always been passionate about that. So yeah, throughout my career, I'd pick up a rental property here, and I'd pick one up here, and it was just slowly building this passive income. And it's really cool because I'm still involved in door-to-door sales, or I don't knock doors anymore. I don't go door to door, but I have a few offices that do, right? Yeah, I'll fly out once a month in the summertime to Texas. I have a couple teams that do they sell solar door to door, right? And so it's more of like I took out the parts of the job that I didn't like and they didn't give me energy, and honestly were a waste of time. It sounds bad because it wasn't a waste of time a few years ago, right? But now if I spend my time knocking on a door, even if I make a few sales that day.
Taking away from something bigger in terms of a setup for a larger future.
It is.
Knocking the doors might take care of today and set you up for a bigger future, provided you live on little and save a lot, right? Which unfortunately most people don't do. You know, I still shake my head anytime I see a youngster driving like a freaking brand new Mercedes or whatever. I'm just like, you're still you're like 22, 23, like set yourself up, drive a fucking hunk of shit for a period of time. Make some sort of sacrifice.
Yep.
If you guys aren't making any sort of sacrifice in terms of your lifestyle versus income right now, your future isn't looking too bright. That I can guarantee you. Yep. Right? Because whatever you're doing to fuel that lifestyle or pay for that lifestyle is something that you're going to have to do forever. And that's exactly what Brody talked about. There's guys that have to go out every single year and produce because they built a lifestyle, and that lifestyle is imprisoning them to having to produce every single season that they go hit the doors, right? And you were basically setting yourself up from day one to be able to exit that and not be imprisoned to having to do that. If you do it, it's now a choice. It's an option that you have for yourself rather than a must, right?
Which is a huge, I think you and I have jammed on this before, right? Just in conversation. But like there's a huge difference when, like if you want to work, that's great, right? Like we all work, right? Do we have to work? No, we don't, and that's another reason I believe in real estate. And since the age of 25, I'm 29 now, right? But I've been financially free, right? My passive income is enough to cover all of my expenses and then some, right? But obviously, so now it puts you in a situation where you choose to go and work, and that is so empowering because it's now your decision. You might live the same lifestyle, do the same things, but now you're doing it because it's your choice and not a choice that's being made for you. And so that's why I get so passionate about the door-to-door sales life and guys that make great money. And nothing frustrates me more than someone who doesn't have any sort of passive income or any sort of investments, and then they made good money and they go buy a nice vehicle.
Well, here's the other part.
I see it all the time.
The other part of it too is you get these people sometimes that are like, okay, I've worked so hard, I've sacrificed, I passed on buying these things and this lifestyle, I've got this money, I've got these savings, but then there's this other really scary part, which is that leap of faith. I've got to let go of this 20 grand to put down on my first rental property or 15 grand. And I got to get a loan in my name. And that's going to be, probably something that's going to tie up some of my credit and that I've also worked so hard for and sacrificed for, And so there's that whole other part of taking that leap of faith. And so I'm sure, because you were young, how hard was that for you? Because I did that too. I did the leap of faith and got burned in the '08 market crash, and then I was scared to get back in the game. And I'm still trying to figure out different real estate investments and what's the right move and stuff. And so, but what did that look like for you, man? Like taking that leap of faith, and just pushing yourself to do it.
Yeah, it's funny because now I've done it so much, you almost start to forget, right?
Yeah, you're just numb to it. Like this is easy. I don't know why anybody isn't doing this.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You've drifted so far away from the experience of your first. Investment, right?
For
where
several.
It's just it's nothing. It's
normal.
The same with us.
Like it doesn't feel like a risk, right? Because you're confident in it.
It feels like what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Because you've done it.
Yep.
Right.
And I remember going back to that because I had one rental property and then we got married, right? And I'm like, babe, we need to go buy another one. And so I had to go through the whole thing with her again, right?
Yeah.
Where she was like,
I don't know. Should we let that
safety net.
I want my money in the bank. It's like it's so.
You need to
that digit on a piece of paper is just for whatever reason giving somebody some level of comfort, right? Rather than building a better future. And I think a lot of people prefer the comfort of staring at a number in an account than really building something 100%. That's of value for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And so you had to talk her into, Yeah, you're going down this path with me a little bit, and there was a little bit of back and forth.
Which is cool now because, and I'm sure you guys probably even have her on your show one day, but she's an entrepreneur now, right? And she wasn't before. Like I said, she took the nursing route and was doing that.
Go to school, get a good job, work 40 years, retire.
Yep, and she'll net 7 figures in her business this year that she started 2.5 years ago. You know, and so I love it because it's same thing happened with real estate. Now she's like. Boom, we'll buy properties without even looking at them in person. And she's like, yep. Okay, feel good about it. You feel good about it. Okay, boom, done. Wire the money. That's it. And so the point of all this is going back, it was scary for her. And my first property was scary for me. I remember for me, the first house that I got into, I went up to SUU, right, to go to school. And all my friends couldn't find a place to stay. I couldn't find a place to stay. It was just, there wasn't a lot of housing. And so my mom's kind of done real estate on the side, and she's like, why don't you buy a house? And I'm like, well, because I don't have 200 grand in my bank account. I don't know.
You're young.
If you saw that or not.
You're young, and you're again projecting internal bias. I'm too young for that. I can't do that. That's for old people. I don't have a family yet.
Yep.
I don't need a house.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's exactly how it was, and I was like, I don't have that kind of money. And I didn't understand either. I didn't understand you could leverage the bank's money, and why would the bank loan you money to buy a house that you can make money on? Well, because there's something in it for them. What's in it for them? Will they collect interest? And so it was scary though, going back, I'm living there, and this time I'm not passionate about real estate. I didn't really understand it still, right? I'm living in one of the bedrooms, and for me it was there was this dungeon. We call it the dungeon, right? It's this in the basement. There was no windows, and since I still have that house to this day. And since then, we've cut in windows and framed out a few bedrooms down there.
With just the window wells or whatever.
Yeah,
a little bit of light in there.
Oh yeah. Well, there was no light, and it was. I remember the carpet was made up of probably 100 different types of carpet, just shaggy, different colors, and it was hot glued down, right? And so the worst room in the house, and I'm like, well, I'll live here because it's the one I can get the least amount of rent out of, right? And so. But living there,
you rented out all the good rooms, which is a good lesson for people because most people take the master suite, and then just get enough for people to barely cover it. If not, maybe you pay a few $100 a month, but yet you got the the nice digs,
Yeah,
you know, in the house.
Yep.
But you took one on the chin there and took the shithole room.
Yeah. I did.
For the purpose of covering the whole mortgage, or were you actually making some money on it?
So that's
a
what was
little bit
cool.
at the
Is
time?
like, so I was working at Gold's Gym at the time, and I remember making minimum wage. And if someone came in and signed up for a membership, I'd make $5 on their membership. And so I'd be so pumped because I'd go from $7 an hour to $12 an hour. If I can get just one an hour, an hour, you know, and I didn't even get close to that. But anyhow, so I'd get these checks from the gym, working there every 2 weeks, you know, and then I'd have all my buddies pay rent and I'd pay the mortgage, and I'd look at the two side by side after they were left over, and I wasn't paying anything, and I was making more money from all my buddies paying me their portion of the rent than I was working, right? And this was, I don't know, 15 hours a week of work, and I'm like, dude, this is so much time. And I look at this other check and I'm like, this is no time. And I'm like, what if I could do this again and again? And so anyhow, that's kind of what got it all started and got my mind going and got me passionate about it. But it was scary because I was at a point where I was like, dude, if my friends decide not to pay me rent,
all the what ifs,
I'm in trouble.
Right?
I can't afford it.
With the mortgage.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's your brain trying to talk you out of something that could serve you long term.
Yep.
But it's, again, defaulting to the negative what if, which is what all our minds do, right? Your mind does it. Our mind, we're all human. That's just what the human mind does, and that's what everyone needs to understand. Just because your mind's a little scared, a little nervous, talking about the negative what ifs doesn't mean that the decision is the wrong decision. It's just a hard decision to make, and you have to overcome, again, internal bias that you have about, you know, being too young, or that's not for me, or what if this, all of these weird scenarios that
the
that
typical one's easy, right? Like, go to college, graduate, get married, buy a house, a 3-car or three bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage house, you know, and you live there. And that's what all my friends were doing. And I'm like, dude, that's not the lifestyle. And even then, I mean, you asked about sacrifices. My wife's been an amazing part of all of this, right? 'Cause she's been going along with the ride. Like, we've, like, a lot
You're trying to get goodie points on this. Keep talking about his wife. That's smart, man.
She seems like a really rad chick.
Yeah.
I've never
won't even listen to this.
I've never met her, but I saw your stories, right? And how she highlighted you at the end of your race. And I was like, that's a rad wife, dude.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Now she's awesome. But, anyhow, so she was great because we were both on the same page of like, hey, we're sacrificing now. And because the cool thing about real estate, if you're going to go and own or occupy a property, well, the amount down that you need required versus if you're just going to go buy a rental property and not live there, there's a huge difference. You know, you're talking like 3.5% compared to 25%.
Yeah, exactly.
So our mindset was like, let's do this as long as we can, and we can get into these houses, and then we'll move out and we'll keep them as rentals. Or like the first house we bought together, it was a duplex, right? So we rented out the basement underneath us, and at that time we were probably making $250 to $300,000 a year, and we were living in a $150,000 house that was right by the college and renting it out underneath us. And I watched a lot of my buddies that were managers in the same company, different companies, and they were going building these dream homes that they still live in to this day, you know, and this is 7 years ago, 7 years ago. And I look back at those decisions that we made, and I could even take like my first house, right? Like, for example, that one, it rents there, the mortgage on it is $1,080 a month, right? It rents for $2,700 a month. Well, it's been that way for the last 9 years that I've had the house. Not to mention, right, that money that I've taken each month, I've saved it up. I bought another property with that. So that's cash flowing. So there's more that's coming from that one property. I did a cash out refinance on that first house. Pulled out the equity, invested that into another property. And so, like, I kid you not, we trace it all back to this one property that I bought for $165,000, scared out of my mind. I couldn't afford the mortgage, right? And it's probably made me over $1 million in 9 years just from that one decision, and that all my savings from that summer, which was like $5,500, right? Yeah. And that's including my mom kicking back some of the commission because she was a realtor. And I'm like, well, hopefully we can cover this first month with my buddies not leaving me high and dry.
Yeah.
So.
There's a huge lesson in that. Is one, so many people go against the grain or don't go against the grain. They do the American dream. They just like are all kind of going the same way. And the same thing even as you get into investing, because I've done this, I made these mistakes, is like you're trying to play the market. So when people are jumping in, they're trying to play the market. They're trying to buy low and sell high. And I've learned that over the years of my own businesses and my own investments. And is like, man, when I'm doing what everybody's doing, trying to play the market, like when I jumped in 07 and flipped a couple homes and I thought, oh, cool, I bought low, I sold high, I'm going to do it again. And then I got burned, right? And then I did what everybody else was doing too. And I'm like, I'm dumping everything. I even foreclosed on a couple that I bought with some partners. And I was like, man, I wish I would have just held it out and rode out the storm, right? Like some smart people did, but most got scared and they dumped, right? Including us and me and my partners at the time. And man, it's like every time I go against the grain, I'm like, I see this success. But every time I try and do what everyone else is doing,
everybody got scared,
like your buddies doing the American dream, buying their, becoming a manager, buying their dream home. It's like, man, they get stuck. And it's not that they're not finding some level of success, but they're not finding full success.
High levels of success.
Yeah. And I'm actually struggling with it right now because real estate, because right now it's like, I've been through those down times. I've been through the up times. I'm like, should I keep buying? A lot of people are saying they're holding off. They're waiting for the crash coming, right? But maybe I should just be buying. We're buying a condo this week, paying cash for it. But we're buying some shit. But I'm like, man, should I keep buying or should I be stashing cash and waiting for a crash? Like you kind of get in this little like
indecision,
what to do thing, right?
Indecision bubble. Yeah. Because you're just trying to predict shit, right? And I've been guilty of it. I sit on a pile of cash.
But we're not full-time real estate investors like you. So I'm like, I'm curious because I've asked a lot of guys in our investor groups, half think, dude, I'm stashing cash, I'm holding off, I'm going to buy in the crash. The other half are saying, no, dude, inflation's crazy. It's going to keep going up. Keep buying. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's a question that everybody has right now, right?
Yeah.
Especially at a time right now. And I have a few thoughts on it. It's interesting because a lot of the people that have this mindset of like, I'm just going to wait till everything crashes and I'm going to buy all these houses. Do they ever buy all these houses when it crashes?
Right.
They never do, right? Yeah. They never do. It's more of a mindset to keep them from playing the game, maybe because they're scared or whatever we've talked about, right?
You're chalking it up. That's a good excuse not to enter because you're too scared to enter.
Yes.
But then when the time's right, you're still going to be too scared.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that's everybody, but I bet it's the majority of people. And so my mindset on it's a little bit different. Like some of the best investments in real estate that I've done have been in this last year during COVID, during the high market, all these things.
Is that because you had a bunch of rentals prior that you ended up getting rid of at a very high price?
No.
Or was it purchased within the last year with high prices and you still won on that deal?
Yeah, I mean a little bit of both, but mostly the latter, right? Because what happens is are they harder to find right now? Is it more competitive? Yes, but are they still out there? Absolutely yes. So what happens is like the low-hanging fruit, it's not as visible, so a lot of people take that as like, there's nothing out there.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait. When reality is there's still amazing deals.
But they're just not digging.
Yes.
They're looking at the surface.
They're looking for the easy stuff, right? And so along with that, like I've always had this belief of like, one, you can never time it, right? So if you're always waiting, then who knows? You're going to be waiting a long time potentially, and you're missing out on, you even look at
tons of money.
Yeah, really a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money. It might make up the difference if there was a dip. But I'm just a huge believer in you invest based on the worst case scenario, right?
Okay.
And if it makes sense, the numbers work, then send it, right? And then if things are great, then even better. But where people get into trouble is they invest based on the best case scenario. And then if things dip a little bit, right, their margins aren't as good, and so they're in trouble. So I'm just a huge fan of like quality over quantity, and that's when people get into trouble. And we look at like, 08, 09, and I always invest with that in mind even, right? Things, rent actually stayed pretty steady, right?
I've heard that too. Because people, their credit's gone to shit, they can't buy, so they need a place to live.
Still need to live somewhere, exactly. And so, but even then, if we just look at it without even considering that, things were about, right, say about 60 cents on the dollar. Well, so now I know looking into it, okay, if my rent or my mortgage is $1,000, right? Well, I need to be at least at $1,600, right, of rent to make up for that margin. If things did get as bad as they were, which I don't think they're ever going to get that bad, right? For different reasons. They might dip a little bit for sure.
So you factor in what you can make now, but even if the market went to shit and you had to lower rent, it's still covered.
It's still good.
Right.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So almost all of my properties, I can cut rent in half
and still have it covered.
and it covers the mortgage, which is like I said, they're good deals, right? Which take more due diligence, more time to find them. But I'd rather do that and still invest and be
and
proactive
sleep at
about
night,
it.
not worrying about what's
Yes,
coming.
Yep.
absolutely.
That's smart. Yeah, do your due diligence.
That is smart. So what's your long-term goal with real estate? Is the goal to have a bunch of doors in your portfolio where it's just cash flowing on a monthly basis? Do you focus more on buying and then flipping within 1 to 2 years, or do you just let the market determine what your decisions are going to be? It's like, oh shit, well, it's really high right now. Why don't we exit this one, put some cash back in the bank, and get more buying power back?
Yeah, great question. So for me, it's all about freedom, right? Freedom is like, that's my why, which obviously, I mean, freedom, it's more time that I have to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, right? Spend more time with the family, like quality time and everything we've talked about. So for me, like I've flipped a lot of houses. I still will, right? I'll buy
Yeah, if
something,
the numbers
sell
make
it,
sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, but at the same time, I don't get nearly as excited, right?
To
Like
get one chunk of money versus that
Yep.
cash flow.
I flipped a house last year and probably made, I don't know, 160 grand, right? And it was cool, but like I didn't get nearly as excited as just picking up another rental property that's gonna cash flow $700, $800, $900 for the rest of my life, plus principal pay down. And so all those things that factor into it, which that gives me freedom, right? Like that 160 grand, can I go live good for a couple of years? Sure, why not,
Yeah.
right? But it's gonna disappear at some point. It's gonna require me to go back to work, use
Earn
more
that
energy.
money.
Yep. So for me, it's all about passive income. That's how I invest. That's how I try to, like the properties I've sold recently, it's been because I'm not going to keep this long term, right? Maybe it's older. Maybe I foresee some problems where it's going to require me to be more of an active investor long term versus more passive the way I want to be. So dump it, invest that into something that's going to pay me passively and take less of my time.
This is kind of switching gears just for a second, but tell me, I mean, you seem like a guy that your life is pretty structured. You like structure.
Yeah.
Has that always been that way, or was there a moment or a coach or a mentor or somebody said, dude, you need to structure your shit? You know, I see your stories or whatever with your calendar and everything's pretty much structured out, right?
Yeah.
And so when did that come about, and how has that served you in terms of, you know, you trying to get where you're trying to go?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think from like early on, I've always been into self-development, right? And I've realized like there's a sense of fulfillment that comes from growing.
Evolving, yeah.
Yep. And when you're changing, you're evolving.
Your brain's
you're
built to
leveling
evolve.
up. It is, man.
We're like one of the only things on the planet that's actually has the ability to continue to evolve, and there's no limits to evolution of what we can do mentally, right? And I just don't think enough people are doing exactly what you're talking about, even trying to evolve or do self-improvement, right? Yep. And they stay the same, therefore their situation stays the same, therefore they stay in misery forever, right?
Yep.
So how has structure your day made your life easier? Because some people will say, well, structuring my day, actually it's hard to structure my day. So they look at the difficult task of the structuring, but I'm guessing obviously once you walk into your day and it's already structured, I think you do it on Sunday nights. Is how you structure your week.
Yep. So I do weekly planning every single Sunday night, and it's been good because it's kind of evolved over the years to now I have an outline that I follow on the things that I want to make sure and hit, right? And then at the very end of all that, I go through it with my wife.
KPIs or whatever,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think to like answer your question, the problem is with shooting from the hip is like you don't get the big rocks in. The things that are most important, they don't just happen, and it goes a lot along the lines of living life by default. You know, whatever comes at me, I'm gonna roll with
You're
it.
reactive
very reactive
instead of proactive.
Yeah, you're not designing it, and so I'm huge on like, I mean, you can see my shirt, right? Like dream it, write it, build it, live it. Like it all starts with like dreaming it and designing it. It's like, what does my dream life look like? Yeah. What time do I wake up in the morning? Where do I vacation to? What does my house look like, right? How much time do I spend with my kids? Like what type of a body do I have? Whatever, right? And so you first start by dreaming it and you write it down, which is another one of my practices every single day. I'm writing down my top 10 goals that I want to accomplish within the next 12 months. Every single day.
Have we ever been on your goal list to get on the show? Say yes.
Yes.
Is there a wink? Or you got a piece of dust in that eye.
That was just a piece of dust.
Yeah, that's
no. I mean, one thing, like, I mean, having an impact, right, is fulfilling.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's something I've written down for sure is like, hey, I want to do more podcasts. So, like, in a roundabout way, absolutely. You know, I want to impact people. I want to help people, whereas I feel like I am younger and there's so much fulfillment that comes from like freedom and passive income and building that. And I feel like real estate's so cool. Like I just did a real estate deal. It's being built right now up in Bryan Head. It's a tiny home resort, right? I put 50 grand in. I found a partner to fund the rest of it. We split it 50-50. And this property will make me $10,000+ a month for the rest of my life. So this one's full. We'll find another one. But the point being, right, is like that's for me. That's 6+ figures on one deal that cost me 50 grand.
If I can get this land tied down in Washington, you want to do another one?
Yeah, I think we can
only fit like 8 on there, but
yeah, it's a couple acres, 2.5,
yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, we've been trying to buy it from Staley Farms.
Cool.
Yeah.
You got a good hookup there.
Yeah.
You got an in.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Maybe.
now everyone's listening
I keep getting shut down, man. I'm going to make it happen.
Everyone's just overhearing us now start talking about getting into some shit, you know?
No, I love it. But the point is, like, you don't have to have a lot of money. There's a lot of deals, even like this year I've done where I find the deal, owner finance deal, right? Like they don't want any money down. They just don't want to have to pay capital gains tax on it. So they're financing it to me where I'm paying them, but the monthly renting it out for double and didn't cost me any money to get into it. And so I get so passionate about that stuff because a lot of people have this like, it's almost like an excuse, right? I don't have credit or I don't have money to get down.
You might not have credit now. You might not have money now, but that doesn't mean you can't have credit or money within the next 6 months or the next 12 months. Don't use today's problems or your situation today to disqualify you from a better future. And that's what most people are doing. They look at their situation right now. That's cool. Well, why don't you dream about something? Why don't you write it down so that you have something that you're working towards, even if you're not an entrepreneur? What are you working towards in your life? What are you doing right now to lay some sort of foundation so that you can have the credit or have the money? But as he's talking about, in some cases, you don't even need that. You just need a little bit of hustle muscle in your system and go out there, find the owner finance deals that probably aren't pulling your credit. They just want X amount. What's the worst case scenario? You default and they take their property back while they were cash flowing the whole time? Big deal. You know, they have all the leverage.
3 main things you need, right? You only need 2 of them out of the 3, like between the knowledge on how to do it, which is why I'm passionate about coaching people and teaching them, and right, you need the money or you need the hustle, but you don't need all 3. You only need 2 of them. So if you get the knowledge and you have the hustle, you do not need money, right? If you have the money and you have the knowledge, you don't need the hustle. You guys know you can write a check, right?
Find the money.
So it helps people to understand that, hey, I don't have to have all this money and I can start building passive income and I can start down that path, and that steamrolls into something bigger. And if I'm smart, I live below my means, I can save that up and roll it into this, and it just starts to
I think
build.
People just blow up the big picture and they just say, well, I don't fit in that right now. That's not me right now. And I think that they do that purposely in their mind to make it more difficult than it really is, just as an excuse to talk them out of not really doing that thing. Right? Because it's so much easier just to not do anything and just say, well, you know, I don't have good credit, or I don't have cash, or I don't have that, you know, well, I'm too young. I'm the, you know, again, these are all internal biases that these individuals have about themselves, and they're telling themselves a lie so that they can feel good about not doing anything about it. Because if they said, I am truly capable, I have all the resources, but yet they do nothing about it, they'd feel like shit. So what's the best way to not feel like shit? Is create some stupid ass excuse of why you're not doing the thing that you really say that you want, and blow it up bigger than it really is, just to talk yourself out of not doing it, so you don't feel like shit.
Everybody has dreams and everybody has visions. The problem is a lot of people don't believe in themselves, like you're saying. And so it's like they get in that mindset of, well, must be nice, but it's not in my cards. The difference is Brody writes it down. He creates a structure around it. Even if you can't find a structure, like if you want to get in better shape, you can go on YouTube and find a guy that's clearly got great, you know, success in his shape, and you can follow his structure and you get those results. But even if you don't have that, you can write it down. You can create your own structure. Like, hey, if I just make 10 calls a day of maybe investors or different rental properties, or, you know, get on the MLS, or if I create some sort of structure every single day to find these right deals and go find them and bring them to an investor that has money and get myself some points in the deal or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You could create your own structure, right? And then just stick to it. And if you stick to it long enough, the results will show up. But a lot of times people just don't have that belief in themselves, so they just think, oh, it must be nice, it's not in my cards. I want it, I just don't know how to get it, so they stay stuck. But success always shows up through motion and action, man. You just create something, write it down, you know, dream it, write it, you know, and then you'll find a way to build it for sure.
Writing it's cool because it's the first step of taking like this dream and it starts to become real, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to don't go build it yet, don't go live it, don't go live the dream yet. That's okay, we realize you're not there yet, but like first just dream it up, which is exactly what you're talking about. It's the design.
The architect.
You have to design
you're a mental architect.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
And then put it on paper.
First. Yeah.
It's the first step to making it a reality, right? And do it again and again and again to where you're so crystal clear on what you want that all of a sudden you recognize these opportunities that were always there, but because you didn't know what you wanted or know what direction you wanted to go or what you wanted to be or the life you wanted to live, you didn't recognize
You missed
those
out on the opportunities because you didn't even see it. Because you're not in the right mindset. Your perspective is off because you're not actually, again, focused on what you truly want. And when you're focused on what you truly want, you can start seeing opportunities everywhere because, again, you're focused on what you're trying to accomplish rather than just being a reactive state all day, reacting to whatever life problems are happening at that moment. So
Which isn't fun. That's not a fun way to live. It's not exciting. I want to take control of life, right?
Yeah.
And that is fulfilling. And it's like, if you don't know where you're going, any path is going to get you there, right? And so it's like, it doesn't matter if your business is successful or not successful right now, or you're just starting out, or you want to branch off on your own, or whatever it is. It's so cool to break it all the way down to be like, hey, I know what I want. I'm clear on that. So now I have motivation to go act. And I think with what you're talking about, Kale, it's like people, they don't have the desire to go do that and to go put in the inputs because it doesn't mean anything to them. There's no purpose behind it. And so you have to make it matter, and then you just reverse engineer it. And now, so everything you're doing, you go put in the cold calls because you know ultimately it's leading you to this life that you want to live, and there's purpose behind it.
100%.
Yeah. Well, when you're writing it out, dreaming it out, or whatever it is, and you have that on paper, just like we talked about earlier in the podcast, well, what's the next checkpoint? What's the next thing that you can do to get closer to that thing or those things that you say that you want? Right? If it's in great shape and you're out of shape, the first thing that you go to the gym the next morning.
Yep.
That's an easy checkpoint. All you're doing is focusing on just the next morning, not saying I'm going to do fitness for the next 20 years or the next 200 pounds that I lose. No, just make it a lifestyle by, again, structuring out your day. I do this every single day that I wake up. And these are my 2 or 3 non-negotiables on how I start my day or how you start your week on a Sunday night by, again, these are non-negotiables that you have with yourself. And all you've done is just do the work.
Yep.
That's it.
100%.
You're no different than anybody else. You've just done the work. You sat down on a Sunday when other people want to relax. You structured your week. Most people dream about it, but they never write it down.
Yep.
We're all daydreamers.
Yep.
We've all had thoughts of living this amazing life and this, that, the other. But then some people, again, the thoughts, well, that's not for me. That's for those people or whatever. I don't know who those people are. Those people, I guess, are just the people that take action. So it is for those people.
And it gets easier, just like we talked about earlier. That leap of faith and making those deals originally are a lot harder.
Yeah.
But
over time
as
you become numb to it. It's just what you do, right? So if somebody's interested in checking out, your real estate course or communicating with you or asking you a question in regards to real estate, one, how would they find the course? I know it's not anything crazy expensive. It's not a $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 course.
No, not at all.
It's just something basic where you have some information and some knowledge deeper than what we just went on today's podcast.
Well, before you tell them, here's the thing I like about Brody, okay? the dude makes money in real estate, so his courses and his education is just like more his passion.
Yeah.
He doesn't go out and promote it.
Yeah.
He doesn't go out and run ads. Like it's more like a passion of his. He's actually out there doing it. So it's not one of those coaches or mentorship programs or courses that you go out and buy that someone's just trying to, get 97 bucks or $1,000 or whatever from you. Like it's just like the dude's out doing it. So it's good shit, you know? It's like true mentorship.
Well, the reason why people like our podcast is because we're in the day-to-day grind just like anybody else. We're showing up building businesses just like they're showing up trying to build their business.
And you guys are real. Like I was thinking about this before coming in today. I was like obviously the name of the show, right?
Yeah.
Like real business owners, but I think it's fitting that you guys are real people.
Yeah.
Right? And like I say that because it's interesting. You see someone on social media, or you hear their podcast, and then you get to know them outside of that, and they're like, man, it's not even the same person, right?
Yeah.
It's not the case with you guys, and so I think that's really cool. You guys are very authentic, and so I say that, like
I think we're
really
just too dumb to be somebody else. We're not smart enough to,
I probably agree with that.
We can only just be ourselves. That's as smart as the level that we get to. I wish
it's too much work to fake it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll
I don't
just
have that
actually
much
work on
the business consumes too much of the energy. I don't got the energy to exude something else, right?
But we've both talked to you. Trevor's talked to you at the gym. I've talked to you at the gym. And then we've talked about you. And I'm like, dude, he doesn't really make a whole lot of money off it. Because we've asked about your course stuff. Because we got a lot of course creators that send us business. So that's why we've asked about it. And then you're like, well, my course is just kind of like this thing that I do because I love it and I'm passionate about it. I love coaching people. But I make all my money in real estate, you know, and your door-to-door companies and stuff. So I think that's what people need to look for. And that's why I wanted to bring it up before you tell them how to connect with you, is because there's so many courses out there. That's how people make their living. And that's not how you make your money. You make your money by doing it. And by default, you coach because it helps evolve you and it's something you're passionate about. And that's what people should be looking for when they're looking for a mentor. They're looking for like real good information. Is like you're getting it from people actually doing it, and this is just their passion thing, you know. And so that's what I like about you.
That's hard to find these days, right? Like it's hard. I just went to
most people put a course together because they're struggling and they just need to sell.
They need to make money.
Exactly.
Yep. I went to kind of a mastermind group 2 weeks ago, and the one thing they talked about reach times. Oh, I'm gonna mess it up now. Reach times results equals like your like who you are, right? How successful you are. And so he's like, the problem is people out there, they have really good reach, but they don't have good results. And by default, like they're being successful, they're making money. And so he's like, it's so hard in today's day and age because you need the results and you need the reach, but like it's hard to decipher between, hey, is this person, do they have the results or do they just have the reach, right?
In other words, what he's talking about reach is just attention. Right. If somebody's basically saying, hey, I've got 500,000 followers on Instagram, now I just have a bunch of attention or reach. Yeah. So I'm going to come up with something fucking bogus and just sell it because I have that much attention, right? Which is not the right way to do it, right? It's just more of a passion play.
It's more like a cash grab deal, you know?
Right? If we were doing cash grab on coaching and mentoring, we would have done that a year and a half ago when people started hitting us up. Yeah. We actually tell people no. We're like, no, we don't want your money.
When we had 30,000 followers on Instagram, we could start selling shit.
But that's just not what it's about. We want to do it when we have the time and the energy and the passion to put into it, which is something that we're working on right now.
We're just literally starting to structure some things.
Deloading our schedules, our plates, the day-to-day stuff to where we can kind of pop in and out. And at the end of the day, as owners of the business, we should just be the individuals creating the awareness on our businesses, not necessarily having to operate our businesses every single day. And so that's the shift that we're ultimately making, and so that we can do some of the fun stuff, right? You put a course together because he enjoys it. It's fun to him. This is what obviously excites him, as you could tell on the podcast. And so it's just going to be good, genuine information.
Because obviously I get hit up a lot, right? Hey, what would you do in this situation? Or what about this? Or how did you do this here? How did you get your first property? What's this type of strategy?
It gets old answering all the same questions.
It does. And like, I can't answer it. Like, I'm not going to jump on a call with everybody, and I can only put so much content out there that people can like.
You still got to make money.
And not only that, just that like, hey, I can replicate myself.
Exactly.
And you can get more value out of it. And so that's ultimately what led to. I'm like, hey, here are all the questions I get. What did I do that allowed me to first build 6 figures of passive income through real estate? Let me reverse engineer it, because I started with nothing. I mean, you guys know, I just talked about it, right? So what were those steps, and now how do I go teach people to do that and break it down so it's so simple you can't mess it up.
Simplicity.
And then if someone asks me like all these questions, it's very easy to be like, yes, all the answers are here, and you're going to get way more of a beneficial answer than me responding
just
in
a quick canned
yeah,
exactly. 2 minutes because I'm busy. I'm trying to make money and do deals, actual real estate deals. Not I don't make money in the DMs answering your questions,
that's it.
right?
Yep,
so
that's it.
Create a course, let them get the information that's up in the dome, but not have to do it 1,000 times for an hour.
Yeah.
Right. You know, what is it, 13 to 14, 15 hours, something like that of content
Yeah, I
in
think
your
15
course?
and a half hours or something like that. Yeah.
So guys, you need to connect with them. How do they do that? How do you connect with Mr. Brody Fausett?
Yeah, so I mean, if you're interested in the course or coaching, you can go to realestateinvestingschool.com. Really simple, real estate education at realestateinvestingschool.com. That's where you want to go.
Realestateinvestingschool.com.
Yep.
What's your Instagram handle if somebody wants to follow you and watch you do
DM you.
62 miles and look like death at mile 55? Actually, there's a picture. You don't even have to look at the stories. There's a picture. He looks like death.
He's like, I almost unfollowed you because I thought you quit after I looked at that picture. So.
Yeah, I was like, bro, you almost lost my respect, bro. I thought you were quitting there, dying on the hill. I was about to unfollow that ass, dude.
No, that's not me. First last name, Brody Fausett. So you can go there. A lot of the real estate stuff is at Flippin' Faucets.
Okay.
Faucett's my last name.
Spell Fausett.
Fausett.
And we'll put that stuff in the bio of the podcast as well. So the website, as well as his personal handle and the Flipping Faucets. And we're not talking about like sink faucets.
No, it's spelled different.
It's spelled different.
I thought about going with the handle, leaky faucet, but I didn't.
Nah. it remained a thought.
Yeah.
You didn't write it down, obviously.
Nope.
Yeah, it was just a thought in and out. So, man, we appreciate you coming on. It was a short notice. I saw him at the gym this morning at like 6:30, 7 or whatever it was. Yeah. And I said, why don't you come in and do a podcast?
Yeah.
And he made it work for us today. So we definitely appreciate that, coming in on a short notice. And I thought it was super
I knew it would happen eventually. We talked about it clear back at the $100 dinner thing. And so I'm glad it happened today.
I was waiting to build it up and see if I could charge him $5,000 to get on the show.
Yeah.
She's like, bro, you'll sell 1 million
We'll
courses.
promote your course. And he's like, I don't care about that.
Give us some commission. No, we don't do any of that shit. Look, man, we have a platform, and we take it very serious about putting people on that are just good, genuine people, and the people that are really actually doing the shit that they're talking about. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of people have sent us messages about being on the podcast. The reason why we either don't reply or say no is because we don't know you.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that we bring on the show are individuals that we actually personally know, which makes us feel better because we're giving you guys information from people that we know are the doers and that are just good, genuine, great people, right? So these are the people we surround ourselves with, or that we see in our community that we see doing awesome things. So we bring them in for you guys to enjoy as well. So guys, make sure you reach out to Brody. If you're interested in real estate, or it's even been a kind of a thought in the back of the mind, go check out the course, go check him out a little bit, go poke around. But I don't ever think it's a bad thing to continue to educate yourself.
Yeah, get the knowledge, get it from somebody
in different fields, right?
Yeah,
you never know where you're going to be in 5 or 10 years, but continue to evolve and add something new to the mind, because that's what it's there for, is to learn and evolve. And it's a form of self-improvement, just having more ammunition to be able to figure out ways to make money if you ever needed it. So
absolutely,
guys, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. I know me and Kel did for sure.
Yep.
Again, appreciate you coming on, and go connect with them. Kick ass. Have a good one, guys.